The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of worlds and countless alien races. But some stories lived only as whispers. Among them was the legend of the humans. Long ago, it was said that humanity had burned too brightly and too fast, fighting wars no one else dared, building ships that could outmatch empires, and exploring places others feared to go. But those days were gone. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, the name human was nothing more than a joke. Delegates laughed whenever the word was mentioned, as if it were a child's tale. To the younger species, humanity was nothing but myth, a ghost that once existed and had vanished without leaving a trace. To the older races, it was a reminder of arrogance, of a species too stubborn to survive the test of time. "They were weak," said one council member, his voice echoing across the chamber. "They fought among themselves until they destroyed their own future. No one has seen them for centuries." "And yet," another alien added with a smirk, "every generation brings someone who claims they have proof of humans still alive. Always the same nonsense." The chamber filled with laughter. The galaxy had moved on, or so they believed, but not everyone laughed. At the edge of the council sat a young historian from a minor world. He had studied ancient archives, fragments of data long forgotten, and he had found something unusual. Hidden in old transmissions were codes, strange signals that did not match any known species. They were not random. They had a pattern, and the pattern spoke of Earth. "They are not gone," the historian said quietly, though his words carried through the chamber. "They are waiting." The room fell silent for a moment before erupting in mocking voices. Waiting? For what? Perhaps to rise from their graves? Child's fantasies. The historian stood his ground. "If you search the outer rim, you will see. The signals are there. They are calling." But no one wanted to listen. The council laughed again, their voices filling the vast chamber. To them, humanity was a dead story. The idea that humans might return was unthinkable, yet far from the crowded council halls, in the dark silence of space, something was stirring. On the edge of the galaxy, patrol fleets moved through quiet star systems. For months, scouts had whispered of strange events, ships vanishing without a trace, empty distress beacons floating near dead stars, wreckage with no explanation. At first, no one cared. Fleets were lost all the time in deep space. But then the pattern grew. More ships disappeared. More signals were recorded, each one carrying the same strange rhythm. One alien captain, old and scarred from battles long past, listened to the reports with unease. He had fought humans once in the days when their fleet still roamed. He had seen their power, their fury, their refusal to surrender. He remembered how their warships had moved like shadows, striking fast and leaving destruction in their path. He remembered how their soldiers had fought, never giving up even when outnumbered. He whispered to his crew, "Do not laugh at these stories. If the humans return, the galaxy will tremble." His words unsettled them. Younger crew members had grown up hearing only that humans were extinct. They had been told humanity destroyed itself, leaving nothing but broken ruins. Yet the old captain's voice carried weight. He had seen what others had only heard in stories, and then came the night when his ship picked up a signal. It was faint, buried in static, but the rhythm was unmistakable. He ordered his crew to trace it. They followed the signal into a dying system, where broken moons drifted and asteroids burned. The silence was heavy, pressing against the hull of their ship. Suddenly, the static cleared. For a moment, a voice spoke, not in any alien tongue, but in the old human language. It was short, sharp, and powerful. "We are still here." The crew froze. The old captain felt his chest tighten. He had not heard that language in centuries, but he understood it. His hands shook as he ordered the message recorded and sent back to the council. Before they could leave, something moved in the darkness. At first it looked like a shadow across the stars, but then the shadow grew larger. A shape emerged, massive and silent. It was not like any alien vessel they had ever seen. Its surface was dark metal, ancient yet alive with hidden power. The old captain whispered one word, his voice breaking: "Human." The ship did not attack. It only moved slowly past them, its engines glowing with a deep, steady fire. It was larger than anything the crew had ever seen, a warship from another age, forgotten but not destroyed. The aliens could only watch as it passed, vanishing into the void. Fear spread across the ship. No one laughed now. Back in the council halls, the recording played for the leaders of the galaxy. The room, once filled with mockery, was silent. The words echoed again and again through the chamber. We are still here. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt the cold touch of fear. The species they had mocked, the ghosts they had buried, had spoken once more. And if humans were truly back, no one knew what would follow. The legend was no longer just a story. It was a warning, and somewhere in the shadows, humanity was waiting. The galaxy is never silent for long. Stories travel faster than ships, carried by frightened voices, whispered in marketplaces, and passed from one world to another. It began with the signal. The words were simple. We are still here. Yet those words spread like fire. Merchants told it first. Traders swore they had heard the recording of the human voice. They said fleets had gone missing near the outer rim. They said ghost ships followed their cargo vessels, drifting silently in the dark before vanishing again. Some laughed at these tales, calling them space madness, but others lowered their voices and whispered, "The humans are back." On mining colonies, workers spoke of light seen in dead systems where no living ship should be. Out in the deep void, salvage crews found wreckage that did not belong to any known species. The metal was stronger, heavier, and it carried designs that matched no galactic record. Some pieces still pulsed with faint power as if refusing to die. The crews that touched them said they felt watched, as though unseen eyes were studying them. Soon the whispers reached the Galactic Council again. Leaders gathered, their voices sharp with anger and fear. "These are lies spread by smugglers," one shouted. "No," another said, more cautious. "Too many fleets have vanished. Too many signals recorded. Something is moving out there." The old captain who had witnessed the massive warship stood before them. His skin was pale, his eyes hollow with memories. He told the council what he had seen. He described the dark shape that blotted out the stars, the silent engines, the voice that echoed across the void. "It was not myth," he said. "It was human. I know because I fought them once. I saw how they bled, how they burned, but never how they surrendered. And if they are back, then the galaxy does not know what storm is coming." The chamber was restless. Many still doubted him, but a seed of fear had been planted. No one wanted to admit it, yet all of them knew. Every great empire had one weakness, the fear of something they could not control. Meanwhile, far from the council, in the shadows of broken stars, humanity stirred. Hidden in forgotten systems, ancient shipyards flickered to life. Their docks, once silent, now glowed with energy. Massive hulls floated in place, surrounded by scaffolds of light. Engineers in armored suits walked the surfaces, repairing, reforging, bringing old warships back to life. For centuries, humanity had been silent. They had vanished from records, erased from memory. But in silence they had rebuilt. They had watched the galaxy from afar. Hidden in the ruins no one dared to search. They had learned patience. And now their patience was ending. A commander stood at the edge of a vast hangar, staring at the awakening fleet. His face was lined, his eyes steady. He spoke softly, his words carried by the hum of machines. "They forgot us. They mocked us. But we have not forgotten them. The galaxy will learn once more who we are." His voice was not filled with anger, but with certainty, as if the future had already been written. Back in the known sectors, fear became stronger. Small alien fleets sent to investigate the rim never returned. Patrol ships disappeared one after another, leaving only silence behind. Sometimes fragments of transmissions reached back, panicked voices cut short by static, glimpses of shadows moving across stars. In the markets, children whispered stories about human ghosts. Some said humans had turned into machines, cold and merciless. Others believed they had merged with shadows themselves, able to appear and vanish at will. No one knew the truth, but everyone felt the weight of dread. The historian who had once been mocked now found himself followed by desperate listeners. Nobles, merchants, even soldiers came to him begging for answers. "You said they were waiting. Waiting for what? Do you know?" He shook his head. "Not for war, I think, not yet. They are watching, studying, preparing." "Preparing for what?" they demanded. The historian hesitated before answering. His voice was almost a whisper. "Preparing to return." The galaxy had grown used to mocking humans, but the whispers spread faster now, turning laughter into unease. Even the strongest empires felt a chill when their fleets vanished without warning. Commanders began to arm their ships more heavily. Colonies built new defenses. The name human was no longer spoken as a joke but as a shadow, a fear that lived behind every star. And yet, no one had seen the full truth. In a hidden sector, Beyond maps, beyond patrols, the first of the great warships stirred, its engines ignited with a low thunder, its massive body breaking free from the docks. It was not a relic. It was not broken. It was alive. As it moved, hundreds of smaller ships fell into formation around it, like predators circling their alpha. They flew in silence, their weapons charged, their movements disciplined. It was not a fleet born of chaos, but of unity, forged by centuries of silence and survival. The human commander stood aboard the warship, watching the stars unfold before him. His words echoed through the halls of the great ship. The galaxy will soon remember our name. In the distance, alien outposts detected sudden bursts of energy. Scanners failed to identify the source. By the time fleets were dispatched, nothing remained but silence and the faint trail of ships long gone. Fear had turned into certainty. The whispers were no longer questions. They were warnings. The humans had not vanished. They had returned. And this time they were not alone. The whispers had turned into fear, and fear was spreading faster than light. Whole sectors of the galaxy now spoke the same words. The humans are back. Yet no one had seen them clearly. Only shadows, only wreckage, only the faint voice of a language most did not understand. The Galactic Council demanded proof. And so, fleets were sent into the rim. Bigger fleets, stronger fleets with orders to return with answers. One such fleet drifted through the cold dark of a forgotten system. It was led by Admiral Kieran, a proud alien commander known for his discipline and courage. His fleet of 20 warships moved in perfect formation, their weapons primed, their scanners sweeping the void. Remember, Kieran told his officers, these are only stories, ghosts, myths. Our duty is to end these tales and return with truth. But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed doubt. For deep in his heart, he remembered the lessons of history. His ancestors had fought humans long ago. The old records spoke of a species that never surrendered, that fought even when outnumbered, that turned every battlefield into fire and blood. Hours passed. The fleet crossed dead stars and broken moons. Nothing moved, nothing lived. The void was silent. Then suddenly, one of the smaller ships cried out on comms. Admiral, we detect movement, bearing 30 degrees off the starboard flank. The fleet turned. At first, the screen showed nothing but darkness. Then the shadow appeared, massive, slow, deliberate. It was not like any alien vessel they had catalogued. It was longer than Kieran's flagship, its surface dark and scarred, yet alive with faint lines of glowing light. The crew fell silent as the object came closer. What is it? Whispered one officer. Kieran's voice was steady, but inside he felt his chest tighten. It is human. The alien ship spread into a battle line, weapons charged. Across the fleet, tension rose. This was the moment the galaxy had waited for, the first clear contact. The massive human warship drifted closer, silent, not answering hails. Its engines glowed faintly, as if holding back power far greater than anything the aliens carried. Send a warning, Kieran ordered. A message was sent. Unknown vessel, you are trespassing. Identify yourself. You are surrounded. Failure to comply will result in force. There was no answer. Again, the warning was repeated. Again, silence. The human ship did not fire, did not move quickly, but its silence was more terrifying than any weapon. At last, Kieran gave the order. Fire a warning shot. One of the smaller warships obeyed, launching a bolt of plasma across the void. It streaked past the human ship and exploded harmlessly into space. Still, there was no response, and then, without warning, the human ship moved, not fast, not chaotic, just a slow, deliberate turn of its colossal body, its weapons lit with sudden brilliance. The void shook with energy. In the blink of an eye, 3 alien warships were gone, shattered into fragments, their screams cut short by fire and silence. Panic filled the fleet. Ships scattered, firing wildly. Kieran shouted orders, his voice drowned by alarms. Hold formation. Do not break. But it was too late. The human ship advanced, its massive guns unleashing bursts of power that tore through shields and hulls alike. Every shot was precise. Every strike was final. It did not waste energy. It did not miss. Within minutes, half the fleet was gone. Kieran's flagship shook violently as another blast struck nearby. His crew looked at him with terror. Admiral, what do we do? He stared at the screens. The human vessel moved calmly, as if the entire battle were nothing more than training. It was not fighting for survival. It was demonstrating power. Kieran made his decision. Send a message to the council. Tell them the humans live. Tell them they are stronger than before." The communication officer hesitated. "Admiral, the humans may intercept." "Send it," Karen roared. The message was launched into space, racing toward known sectors. Whether it would reach them, no one knew. Moments later, the human ship turned its full firepower on Karen's flagship. The Admiral closed his eyes as the blast hit. The ship was torn apart, swallowed by light. Only a handful of smaller vessels managed to escape. They fled into the void, their engines burning at full power. Behind them, the human warship drifted once more into silence, as if satisfied with the destruction it had left behind. The survivors carried their story to every corner of the galaxy. They told of the massive vessel that fought with precision and calm, of the fleet that had been destroyed in minutes, of Admiral Chiron's final words, "The humans live." When the Galactic Council heard the reports, there was no laughter this time. There was no mocking. The chamber was silent. Some leaders demanded immediate war. Others whispered of surrender before a battle even began. And still, across the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. The humans had returned. Not as myths, not as shadows, but as warriors. The galaxy thought it had seen the worst. Admiral Chiron's fleet was gone, destroyed in minutes. Survivors carried the story home, their voices trembling as they spoke of a single human warship that had wiped out 20 ships without effort. But what the galaxy did not yet understand was that Chiron's battle had been nothing more than a whisper of what was coming. The first human warship had not been alone. It had been a scout. Far beyond the mapped stars in regions no alien dared to enter, there were systems filled with silence. Systems where stars burned faintly and planets lay broken. To outsiders, they were dead zones, cursed and forgotten. To humanity, they were home. In one such system, a world of ash circled a dim sun. Above it floated shipyards older than most alien empires. For centuries they had been dark, their frames hidden under the cover of drifting debris, but now they burned with light. Massive vessels hung in the void, larger than any living alien had ever seen. They were not new. Their hulls carried scars, their surfaces lined with battle damage from wars fought long ago. Yet they were alive again, reforged and armed with power that made alien fleets look like children's toys. In the heart of the dock stood the greatest of them all, a ship so vast it could eclipse moons. Its armor was black, its body filled with weapon ports that glowed like sleeping eyes. When its engines roared to life, the entire station trembled. Crew members, humans hardened by generations of waiting, watched with silent pride. For centuries, they had been the hidden blood of their people, training, repairing, preparing. Now their patience was over. A commander stood at the viewing deck of the flagship. His voice was calm but carried weight. For too long, the galaxy mocked us. For too long, they thought we were myths. They thought us broken, but we endured. We rebuilt. And today we rise. Across the fleet, voices answered as one. We rise. Engines ignited. One by one, the ships pulled free of their docks. They did not rush. They moved in perfect order, thousands of warships aligning in formation. Carriers opened their bays, releasing swarms of smaller fighters that took positions like flocks of steel birds. Cruisers slid into the outer edges of the armada, their guns ready. From the surface of the ash world below, the sight was terrifying. The stars themselves seemed to vanish, swallowed by the sheer number of ships. It was not an army. It was a shadow spreading across the galaxy. The first transmissions of this awakening reached alien ears. Outposts at the edge of the rim caught glimpses of massive fleets moving in silence. Scanners lit with thousands of signals, all carrying the same signature. Human panic spread. Councils shouted. Empires demanded action. Some leaders swore to gather every ship, every weapon to strike first before humanity grew stronger. Others whispered that it was already too late. How could they fight something that had been preparing in silence for centuries? Meanwhile, human fleets moved outward, not with chaos but with discipline. They did not rush to attack. They did not burn colonies or destroy trade routes. They advanced like hunters, slow and unstoppable, closing in from every direction. On one alien world near the rim, night fell heavy. Citizens looked up at the sky and gasped. The stars were gone. In their place, shadows moved, massive ships blotting out the heavens. Engines glowed faintly like burning eyes. No weapons fired. No words were spoken. But the message was clear. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy was now under their gaze. Back in the hidden flagship, the human commander spoke again. His words broadcast to every ship in the Armada. They wanted to forget us. They wanted to erase our name. But names do not die. Today, the galaxy will remember humanity. The fleets answered with silence, not from fear, but from discipline. They did not cheer. They did not need to. Their presence alone was thunder. Across the galaxy, alien spies and scouts tried to measure the human armada. Reports flooded the council. Each was worse than the last. Thousands of ships, weapons beyond comprehension, carriers large enough to swallow cities, battleships with energy readings so high that even the strongest shields might collapse in seconds. But more terrifying than the numbers was the unity. Humanity had once been divided, fighting each other as much as outsiders. But the fleets now showed no division, no infighting, no weakness. They were one. And unity made them unstoppable. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's strongest races felt powerless. The jokes about humanity were gone. The laughter had turned into silence. And silence had turned into dread, because the humans had not just survived. They had returned as an armada. The galaxy was no longer laughing. What once had been jokes and stories had now become fear carved deep into every world. Fleets had been destroyed, outposts silenced, and entire sectors left trembling in the wake of shadows moving across the stars. The humans were no longer whispers. They were real. They were here. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, silence reigned. Leaders from dozens of empires sat frozen, their voices stolen by the reports that arrived every hour. Thousands of ships, armadas that stretched across entire systems, carriers the size of continents, weapons that tore through fleets as if they were paper. No one had words. Finally, one delegate broke the silence. We must unite. Every empire, every world. If we do not, then humanity will crush us. But another delegate whispered, and if even unity is not enough, what then? No one answered. Because in the heart of every leader, the same question lived. How can you fight an enemy who has already defeated time itself? Humanity had vanished, and yet it had endured. Meanwhile, in the farthest reaches of space, the human fleet gathered. Thousands of warships floated in perfect formation, their dark hulls glowing with faint lines of energy. The stars around them seemed dimmer, as if the fleet itself had swallowed the light. On the flagship, an enormous vessel so vast it eclipsed the smaller cruisers, a single man stood before a viewing window. His uniform was black, his shoulders heavy with years of waiting. This was the High Commander, the voice of humanity's return. His eyes, sharp and steady, watched the stars without fear. He spoke. His voice carried through the halls of the flagship and broadcast to every ship in the Armada. For centuries, they mocked us. They said we were extinct, erased from history. They thought us gone. But we endured. We rebuilt. We became shadows. And now, the shadows take form. The voices of thousands of soldiers echoed back. Humanity endures. The High Commander raised his hand. Transmit the message. Far across the galaxy, in every system, comms channels flickered. On trading posts, on colony stations, even in the heart of the council itself, the message appeared. Screens lit with static before a single human face appeared. Calm, cold, unyielding. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of centuries. We are humanity. We were forgotten. We were mocked. But now we return. The galaxy will remember our name. Gasps filled council halls. Citizens on alien worlds froze where they stood, watching the message with wide eyes. The humans were no longer ghosts. They were speaking directly to them. The High Commander continued. We do not seek chaos. We do not seek to burn your worlds. But hear this warning. Earth will never be touched again. Humanity will never kneel again. Cross us and your fleets will fall. Leave us in peace and perhaps the galaxy may endure. The message ended. Silence followed. In the markets of distant colonies, people whispered the words again and again. On military stations, commanders replayed the recording, fear tightening their chests. And in the homes of common citizens, families looked at one another and asked the question no one wanted to answer. What happens if humanity decides not to stop? Back aboard the flagship, the High Commander stood alone for a moment, staring into the void. His officers waited, silent. Finally, he spoke to himself, words that were not broadcast. They will fear us. But fear was always our greatest weapon, and now it is theirs to carry. The armada began to move. Thousands of engines ignited, glowing like fire in the dark. The fleet advanced slowly, not toward destruction, but toward presence. Their strategy was simple. Let the galaxy see them. Let them feel the weight of human power. No need for endless battles. The fear would do the work for them. In alien palaces, rulers argued about whether to resist or surrender. Some wanted to launch all their fleets in one desperate strike. Others whispered of peace treaties, of giving Earth space and leaving humans alone. But deep down, every leader knew the truth. Humanity held the advantage, because humanity had what no other species could claim: patience. They had waited in silence for centuries. They had learned from failure. And now they were united in a way the galaxy had never seen. On one distant colony, a child asked her father, "What are humans like?" The father stared into the sky where shadows moved across the stars. He answered quietly, "They are what the galaxy forgot to fear." And across the rim, in silence deeper than death, humanity's armada spread. Not invaders, not conquerors, but a force so strong, so vast, that the galaxy itself bent beneath their return. The laughter was gone. The fear had begun, and the galaxy finally understood. Humanity had never died. Humanity had only been waiting.